Yes, hello.
Hello. So, we are joined by M.A. Larson. M.A. Larson, everyone. Everyone say hello.
Hi, guys.
How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing all right.
So, I hadn't mentioned yet what you had planned to do, but I guess we can now say that you are between now and, the hour? So 10 o'clock your time, 3 o'clock EST, 8 o'clock my time, I guess. Anyway, between now and the next hour, every euro or dollar matched, or every euro or dollar donated will be matched by the very generous Mr. Larson. So if you haven't donated yet, please go ahead and do that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I haven't misrepresented you there, have I?
No, that's exactly right.
Excellent. We're going to break the bank now.
People tweet about it, talk about it, because that is definitely a really, really generous offer, and we want to take him up on that.
Very much so. Spread the word, folks. So, you're a writer on My Little Pony, or so I'm informed.
I have a question for you, because I'm completely illiterate with this Skype thing. What should I be looking at right now?
Do you need to be looking at anything?
No.
Is there fun stuff going on? There's nothing to look at?
You can look at the art.
You can look at the art going on, yeah.
Okay, never mind. I know how to do that. Carry on. I'm watching.
Fair enough. So, you've written 12 episodes now? I'll go through them. You've written Swarm of the Century, Sonic Rainbow, The Cutie Mark, Chronicles, Return of Harmony Parts 1 and 2, Lunar Eclipse, Secret of My Access, Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000, It's About Time, Pennyville Conventional Magic Duel, and the season finale of this season, the title of which I will not give away because I don't like spoilers and neither do you.
That's right. Wow, that's pretty impressive when you ramble them together like that.
I did have a list going. I don't really have any. I mean, we can do this sort of what's your favorite episode that you've written? How did you get into writing? We can do those sorts of questions, or we can field questions from the chat and from Twitter. It's entirely up to you, or you can just talk about whatever you feel like talking about.
Sorry, I have to close that. I can't figure it out. I'm just hearing you twice. What did you just say?
We can do this however you'd like. We can do sort of the general questions that you've answered before, or we can field new questions from the chat or on Twitter. We can talk about whatever you feel like talking about.
Doesn't matter to me. We can go to chat.
There was a question I think that got asked earlier on Twitter, which was how did you first get involved in writing for film and television, or just writing in general? How did you fall into that world?
I got into it when I was in high school. I mean, I'd always done the basic stuff for school, but in high school I had a class called Mythic Patterns, and we had to do a lot of creative writing, but oriented with Joseph Campbell and Jung and stuff like that. And I got really interested in the subtext and the archetypes and how all that stuff worked. And
the hero's journey, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Realized there was just more depth to stories I was reading than I thought. And that got me really excited. So then I went to college for filmmaking. I always wanted to be a director more than anything. But I went for writing and directing, and then I directed and produced a couple short films and absolutely despised it, just hated every minute of it. I hate being on set. It's just awful. It's not my cup of tea. So I realized, well, I'll just try writing, and just wrote, spec things for years until I started to get one thing here, one thing there, and then moved to LA, and a buddy of mine worked on the show at Cartoon Network, and he was leaving the show, but he knew they needed writers, so he told me to watch SpongeBob, which I had never seen before, and I rented dozens and dozens of SpongeBob DVDs, watched them, wrote some SpongeBob specs, 2 of them, and got hired on that show, and then I just sort of bounced around in animation after that.
So how did you first... Actually, well, one question in the chat, and this ties into who your sort of influences are. I know you're a big fan of Vonnegut. Shinigami Dad was quite curious to know if there are going to be any Vonnegut homages coming up in the future. But can you talk about that and talk about your influences and so forth?
I'm not sure I could get a Vonnegut reference in. I'd love to.
It would be a bit tricky, wouldn't it?
That would be tough. I'll have to keep thinking about that. A lot of times, just on a little tangent, when it comes to like throwing in references, you don't really go into it thinking, I want to reference this. The moment in the scene happens, and you're like, oh, that actually matches with this random thing in this bizarre place in my mind, so I'm going to put that in. Like that, there's a reference in Secret of My Access where Applejack says, Twilight, get my rope, which is a reference to this old pecani sauce commercial from the 80s, and Lord knows why I still remember that, but it just perfectly made sense to reference that line. So anyhow, back to your question, the influences, I think probably like everybody, I loved Kerouac. The way that he uses words is just like nobody else does it. And then of course I wrote a lot of bad stuff in that style. I love Steinbeck and holy shit, I'm forgetting his name. Huge influence.
Just say Shakespeare and make me happy.
Truman Capote, I think, is
there we go.
A genius. In Cold Blood, it's just beautifully written. So I guess those are the major ones.
So how did you get involved in writing for Pony? You mentioned the spec scripts. Is that how you first fell into the show?
Well, it's the situation where, you know, even when I got hired on that first show, I got onto a staff, which is pretty rare because a lot of shows don't have staff. And as soon as you get a job, you're freaking out because you're like, oh man, this season's going to be over in 6 months. What am I going to do after that? And I didn't know anybody at that point, and I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know how you got the next job. So luckily that show got another season, and I had a reprieve. And I guess I met a few people here and there, and I got offered an episode of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Right at the end of its run, I only got to write one of them because the show basically ended. But it was so much fun, and in that room was Craig McCracken, and Lauren was in there, and Rob Renzetti, who became My Little Pony's story editor, and a couple other people. And it was just a really fun time, and the episode came out really well. And so Lauren remembered me when she got the show, and that was it.
As simple as that.
Simple as that.
So it's not what you know so much as it's who you know, as the saying goes.
It's who you know, because you know everybody in animation is trying to sell their own show, and it's in your best interest to try to help people do that. You know, for not only because it's just a good thing to do, but for your own benefit. You know, I helped a lot of people with their pitches, and none of them ever really went anywhere. And a lot of people helped me on my pitches, and those didn't go anywhere either. But you just never know. You know, if you go in and meet with executives at Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or whatever, a lot of times they'll get to know writers from pitches, you know, things like that. And if they like you, they'll put you on other people's pitches and help you develop shows. And then that leads to shows. So it is kind of who you know.
Perry, I don't want to monopolize this. If you have questions, if you want to get some in there.
I'm not
putting you on the spot now. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure if I should get to the really nerdy questions just yet, because I'll just make a fool of myself again. Because I already asked all the nerdy questions to Dave Kolsky, and I already felt like, oh my gosh, I'm talking about this.
No, ask the nerdy questions. The nerdy questions are fun.
So a question I've seen here in the chat that I think is interesting. Of all the things you've written or done for My Little Pony scripts, is there anything that surprised you that you got away with it?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is the lesson in Super Speedy Cider Squeezy. Really surprised they went for that.
It was a fantastic lesson, Bo.
Well, I think we got away with it because I've said this before, but it's got a backdoor moral. You know, she's I didn't learn anything, but then she says, I already knew that my friends would, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's why we got away with it, because there is sort of a sweet little moment at the end. Stuff I've been watching, I couldn't believe it when Angel slapped Fluttershy. I was like, whoa, crazy. But off the top of my head, and some of the stuff in Return of Harmony, like the balloon scene with Pinkie Pie and the apples with Applejack, are so creepy. I was kind of surprised they let them go through in script, and then I watched them on the episode, and I was like, wow, they even DHX made them even creepier. Which is great. I thought they came out really well, but I was a little bit surprised that we were able to put something that kind of sinister in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people cite Return of Harmony Part 1 and Part 2 as amongst, if not the top of their favorite episodes. Can you talk about the process of writing those two and how Discord came to be?
That was probably the first time I felt like, wow, I'm a real writer, because I got offered a two-parter. You know, two-parters are highly coveted, and I had only written 3 episodes at that point. So I was really excited when they offered it to me. But it was almost just like a normal story meeting, just twice as long. You know, when I went in the room, I looked at the premise not that long ago. It's really short. It's like three sentences long. But it has the basic outlines of the story. Lauren and Rob didn't have Discord in mind when we went to the meeting, because the first thing we did is spitball who this guy is. And Lauren said, you know, it would be great, somebody like Q. And Rob's like, yes, Q would be great. And I said, who the hell is Q? I don't know what that is. And so I spent the entire weekend watching Delancey on YouTube just to get his voice. And I was only going to watch an episode just to kind of understand who his character was. And I ended up watching every single one he did, because he was just so entertaining. Him and the way he and Picard played off each other. I mean, it's pretty obvious that that's sort of Twilight and Discord.
Mm-hmm.
So then it just became, I mean, a big part of that episode was logistics. It's, you know, in the first 22 minutes, you got to tell 6 separate incidents with Discord. You got to set them up, and then you got to do 6 separate incidents. So there's a lot of tricky timing, and honestly, that's where the Fluttershy moment comes from. You know, we were spitballing, and we were looking at the cards on the wall for the first part, saying, this is really long. What are we going to do for Fluttershy? And I don't even remember who it was. One of us said, what if he just can't corrupt her? So he just snaps his fingers. And it was honestly done as a way to save time. But it ended up being really funny and kind of in character, too. And, you know, it made sense for Fluttershy to be so pure that he couldn't get to her. So it was tricky with the amount of stuff we had to tell, which is just kind of the peril of the show in general. There's 6 characters on the show, not to mention all the, you know, secondary characters. So a lot of times it's really hard to get it all in. So is that what you asked me?
Yeah, that was the answer we were looking for.
I just start rambling. And I'm like, what are they?
That surprises me actually now. See, that's another assumption debunked, because I was assuming that you've been into Star Trek for longer because you just had such a knack for writing, you know, Q/Discord. So I was assuming, oh yeah, he has to be a longtime fan. So now I'm legitimately surprised.
No, that's well, it's sort of what I do in most writing, is find a voice I really like and get immersed in it until I can like hear just dialogue being done in that voice.
I know I was surprised when I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off there.
Oh.
Just on the Trek angle, I know I was surprised when I heard that you hadn't watched the Tribble episode, but you wrote Swarm of the Century, and so many people made the connection between the Parasprites and the Tribbles, but that wasn't in your mind.
It kind of was. It was more Gremlins, but it definitely was. I mean, I still haven't seen the Tribble episode, but I know what it is. You know, I've heard it referenced so many times, and I know the basic storyline, but I haven't seen it.
Really?
You're breaking so many hearts amongst the fans.
I know. I'm sorry, everybody.
Really? Oh,
I have massive gaps in my in what I've seen and haven't seen that are really embarrassing.
The huge Trekkie in me is now like weeping.
No, I don't dislike Star Trek. I actually really enjoy it. I've seen all the movies.
Oh yeah. That's not what I meant. It's just that I thought, this has to be like a super cool reference, and I feel so nice being a Star Trek fan right now. I guess it was just pleasing my ego, I guess.
Well, they are Star Trek references, so.
So you mentioned references that that have to kind of come about organically and not be forced. But what is a favorite reference that you've made that no one has really sort of got, that you wish people had picked up on more?
Well, it's crazy because some of them I tweeted what's the reference in Secret of My Excess, and I think within 5 minutes somebody said, oh, it's the pecani sauce commercial from the 80s, and I was like, what? How could anybody know that? But Bronies are very pop culture adept, and they pick up on a lot of stuff. The one, I think I've mentioned it before, but on Swarm of the Century, when Twilight's walking through town, and the two ponies are putting up the poster. It says "Welcome, Princess Celeste." That's a reference to my all-time favorite film, which is The Commitments. There's a scene in that movie where this band is going to put on a benefit concert because their platform is that they're anti-drugs, and these kids put up this poster that says "Heroin kills," but it's spelled with an E. So I was kind of referencing that scene, and I don't think anybody got that one until I mentioned it. And now I've actually gotten tweets from people who've watched that movie. So
I think you've made people watch that movie. I think Ohad is one of the people that you talked into watching that film. I still haven't seen it, but I need to.
It's not, it's not like high art masterpiece. It's just the most enjoyable film I've ever seen. It has real heart and amazing music.
And I think that's one of the themes of your episodes as well, the fact that so much they do all have real heart to them. Thinking of the ending of Cutie Mark Chronicles, for instance, and the wonderful scene with the CMC and Scootaloo kind of not enjoying how sweet and saccharine the whole thing was, but everyone else enjoying that moment when they've all realized that they were destined to be friends. That was a nice heartfelt moment. I
think that moment would have been over the top had she not been in that scene.
I must say I agree. It was sweet, but I think it would have gotten over the line if you didn't have that sort of, I feel like this too, this sort of moment that plays to the audience.
Then it lets you enjoy the sappy sweetness of the moment. The fact that there's somebody in there saying, "Oh, gag, this is so cheesy," but actually secretly enjoying it because she was. But I think it's a broader point you bring up about the show in general. I think people love the show because of that, because it actually is not afraid to have heart. There's so many shows on now that are just pure snarkiness and irony, and it's really refreshing to work on. And I'm sure the reason this community exists is because it's refreshing to watch something that just has heart, unabashedly.
Yes, definitely.
It's certainly one of the reasons that I enjoy it. Just to cut in, we're speaking with M.A. Larson, who is the writer of many, many, many episodes of MLP. Just a reminder that he has very generously offered to match all the donations that come in between when he started talking and 2 minutes from now, top of the hour. So if you haven't donated yet, now's the time to get in those charitable donations, because you will be effectively doubling your money. Well, Mr. Larson will be effectively doubling your money. So if you haven't given us your money yet, give us your money.
Double the money.
A question that's been popping up is I know we did lots of stuff gets cut due to some reason or another. Most often, I guess, time constraints. Is there something that you've written that you really wanted to see happening that didn't?
It's hard to answer, because I think the cuts that are made with very good reason. There's definitely stuff I thought, that was funny, but when I see the cut, it makes sense. Like there's the Looney Eclipse, there was an entire scene with Rarity that I thought was really funny, but when I saw that it was cut, I was like, that is just a brilliant cut, because it doesn't advance the story. It's just purely funny, and there's not enough time to have it in. Jason and his team are so good at finding the parts that are superfluous, and that's actually, I don't mind it at all, because I intentionally put stuff in the scripts, and what am I trying to say? I have a strict page count. Like I couldn't go over 30 pages, but I try to leave as many jokes in as I can, and hopefully they use them. And if they get cut, it doesn't really matter. There was actually a longer version of the intro to Magic Duel that I thought was pretty good, where the old shopkeeper is sort of showing her around, and she says she wants to see the revenge section, and he's like, "Oh, right over here."
Nice. I may be misremembering this, but was there not an episode that you sent off that?
And Trixie's like, "What? What do I care if she's invisible spots?" Like, it's like jokes like that are dumb little jokes. But it was kind of a funny scene, and it had a little bit more menace to it. But I watched it, and I get why they changed it. It made sense. It didn't add to the story. But I think I wrote that long just because I love the tone of that intro, of her running through the rain-soaked streets and coming to this creepy shop. there was more there.
You seem to have a knack for bringing back the fan favorite characters, because you got tasked with Luna's reappearance as well.
Yeah, no, that was my choice. I go in for the meeting. And it's like, hey, you're doing the Luna episode. You're doing the Trixie episode. I'm like, cool. Okay.
Now, was there an episode that ran over? I'm trying to remember something that you had mentioned another time about being told to limit your page counts from here on out.
Yeah, it was my scripts were never as long, because I read all the scripts, and there's some that are 36, 37 pages. Mine were never that long. I think my longest was 34. But for whatever reason, my scripts, when they were boarded and created, ran longer. Like I don't know why. Like basically, my 30 pages is longer than, Amy's 30 pages or whatever. I don't know why that is, but it just came to be. So they told me that I couldn't go longer than 30 pages. There were still scripts from other writers coming in at 35 and whatnot, but they were the same length as my 30. So I don't know what caused that, but I got a page limit, which is good. It's really good, because then you know where you are. At page 10, you should be done with Act 1. Page 20, Act 2. It was really nice to have to slash. So.
Well, I know I've got a couple more questions, but Perry or anyone in the chat that we haven't quite got to? I'm sure there are a ton of questions for you. I want to make sure everyone gets a chance here.
Is there a kind of scenario that... Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Before we move on, also, hi, Mr. Larson. I'm Rommel.
Hello.
We've actually broke 4,000 euros now.
Outstanding.
Whoa!
I got to double that?
Let me see if that took place before the time moment, before the cutoff point for donations.
You did write down.
I think you were doubling all the money that came in between, not the overall count.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, if you want to double the overall count, by all means.
No, you don't have to double that.
That'd be a little bit over the top, maybe. I'm not going to talk you out of it. I mean, by all means.
Yeah.
The lesson here is that writers get paid a lot.
Right at 10 a.m.
You wrote down when we started.
So it was 42 euros.
42 euros?
That was how much was donated, yeah.
In the last 20 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Damn,
Cool.
people, thank you. Thank you for your generosity.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
So,
If I may ask
questions.
I may ask a quick question, Mr. Larson.
Yes.
This is kind of a humorous one. Has there been any updates on Larson Con at all? That you'd be informed about?
We're still working on it. We're still trying to figure out, with the fire codes and all that stuff, parking.
Get the guest list going.
At some point, it'll happen.
Figure out the catering.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
catering.
please do.
Question from Machinimist Luke. What character do you enjoy writing the most?
That would be, if we're going the main characters, I'd say Rarity. I find her spectacularly fun. I love the duality of her, kind of poncy persona, but that she really does have a lot of heart. She's so good to her friends. But she's got, there was a cut line in Magic Duel that I liked, but it made sense for it to be cut. It's where she says, oh God, I'm going to forget. It's when Trixie casts a spell on her and puts her into this ugly outfit. She says something like, these colors should only be used for trim. Is that in the show?
I don't think
like,
so.
I don't think
And
so.
even then, only sparingly. But she's just affronted that she's put in this color that she thinks should only be used for one specific thing. Whatever. Yeah, brown is an accent color. That's it.
Okay.
So I really enjoy writing her because I like those Frasier style, full of themselves characters who actually have real heart. Discord was obviously a ton of fun.
The chat is going insane to let you know that the line was in the episode.
Okay, good. But there was a second line where she says, and even then only sparingly. That got cut. Anyhow. The Flim Flam Brothers I really, 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 really enjoyed because it's two characters, but they're basically one character, and their whole MO is to just confuse people. So they're just popping up and they're finishing each other's sentences, and they're talking so fast you can't tell who's who, and they're so charming.
Yes. Oh yeah. I definitely agree with that.
I really enjoyed writing them. So.
Did you go into that episode, when if I actually may ask about, thinking that you would definitely want to include a song, or did they just come with the premise?
Definitely wanted to do a song. And there's another case if I hadn't seen the reference material. You know, we had the meeting, and I think it was Rob Renzetti who said we should do this like the Music Man, and I hadn't seen it. And Lauren and Ron were like, "You've got to see the Music Man." And I said, "I hate musicals. I can't stand musicals." And I watched it anyways, and I was an absolute convert. It's so good. I absolutely adore the Music Man. And, you know, it was clearly a reference to that. And that song was so much fun to write because the pattern of the lyrics is so bizarre, and it's kind of sing-songy, and it's just this patter. So I had a really, really good time writing that song. I think it was nearly the entire first act and the first draft of the script. I had to cut it down a bit. But yeah, there's no question it was a Music Man reference.
And then there was silence. Well, we did say that we wanted to open it up so all the artists on the stream who are doing all their fabulous work could get a chance to speak with you and ask their questions as well. So if they want to, I'm sure they're more than welcome.
Fire away.
By the way, we're speaking of art. We asked this the other guests beforehand as well. Is there anything you want the artists to draw? Do you have a request?
Do I have a request?
Mm-hmm. I'm free.
God, you know, I should be ready for this by now. I've been asked this before, and I'm still not ready for it. Let me think about that. I'll have an answer for you by the time we're done.
Maybe you can draw a Trixie checking out the revenge section.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, guys, draw Trixie,
Well,
checking out the revenge section, browsing, checking out all the things.
We need more of that shopkeeper, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh yeah, I agree. I like the mystical shop.
Yes, great. While we're talking, I'm going to bring that script up because there's one other thing he showed her that I thought was funny that got cut. But carry on. In the meantime.
I think we should also have another M.A. Larson campaign pin. This one Luna themed.
Is there a Discord themed one? We need a Discord themed one.
It's so funny.
I think so.
If there's not a Discord themed one, I demand one.
Yes, do it. Make it happen.
In the meantime, folks, if you hadn't had a chance to donate yet, if you've been waiting to donate, then please, by all means, get those donations in. And if you aren't able to help us out that way, then help us out by spreading the word on all the websites, all the social networks.
Yep. All of the social networks.
I'm trying to do my NPR impression here. If you value the programming that you hear on our station, maybe you'll consider making a donation. We can give you this tote bag.
Do we have tote bags?
We should have tote bags. How do we not have tote bags?
Well, I have some tote bags lying around. I could feasibly, utilize those.
You get one of Rommel's old tote bags.
I do have a question, but I have to phrase it very, very diplomatically and carefully. Given the widespread reporting that you have written the finale of this season, and given that there has been some furor about that, is there anything that you want to say to the fandom, or at least to the parts of it that are listening to us right now? Anything in particular you just want to say? Obviously, you can't give away any details or confirm or deny anything, or maybe you don't even wish to legitimize anything by commenting on it at all. But if there is anything that you wish to say, please, this is your opportunity.
I had better reserve comment. But I will say, because I've been getting a lot of tweets saying we're going to love it, and it's almost like maybe, maybe not. there's no reason because we have a rapport on Twitter or whatever that you have to like what I do. So I just want to say that, like, go into it and develop your own opinion, and it's not going to hurt my feelings. I guess that's all.
So you're giving us license to hate your work?
Yes, please go for it.
Fair enough.
Or like it if you legitimately do. I just I was starting to get a lot of tweets about, because I know there's a lot of people who are just mad about whatever rumors are floating around, and then there's a lot of people on the other side who are saying, well, they'll like it no matter what, and let's just all wait and see.
See, I'm going to argue with you now. I'm going to commit to the ultimate sin and argue with a writer of MLP in front of a bunch of MLP fans. But I don't think people necessarily say, I mean, they might be, but I think what I can speak for myself and a few other people, and what we have been saying is not so much that we will necessarily love the episode, but that we will continue to respect your work regardless of our feelings towards the episode.
Well, that is fair enough.
Right.
I guess that's hard to convey in a tweet.
Yeah.
It's easier to kiss people's asses if you have the chance to speak in this sort of venue.
We should do this more often.
If you value hearing people kiss M.A. Larson's ass, then perhaps you'll consider donating and get a tote bag.
I need a tote bag.
No, this is why I don't like spoilers in general, because it's, it would be interesting to have an alternate universe where people would watch an episode and then have their debates after the episode, as opposed to developing. And I understand that would neuter half the fun of it all, the speculation. But it gets a little out of control when, like, the Crystal Empire, they released, 8 minutes of it?
Yeah.
Seems a little excessive. I don't know. Part of me thinks it's a shame. There's all these images and, things like that floating around, but it is what it is. Because I've been a fan of film and TV long enough to know that 60% of your viewing experience is expectations, and you go into things with certain views, and then rather than watching the thing, you are reacting to what you were expecting it to be. Which, on the other side of the coin, I've actually enjoyed a lot of things that I didn't expect to because of that, because I had low expectations.
Within the context of the show, or just in general?
No, just in general. Just in viewing things in general.
I'm going to say you had low expectations of other writers on the show? Oh, the truth comes out.
It's true. No, it's not true. I love the other writers on the show. No, there's a movie that came out this past year called Jack Reacher that nobody saw, with Tom Cruise, that just looked awful, and I don't even know why I saw it. And then I went and saw it, and I was like, wow, that was fantastic. It's so much fun, and it just knows exactly what it is. And that was a case where I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much had I gone in with high expectations. So the expectation game is always tricky, and especially with a community like this where there's so much conversation and speculation and whatnot, it can be tough. But it's, in another way, it's like, when the Trixie episode came out, there was all this speculation when it was referenced. But for me, it's sort of, I don't really care because I wrote it like a year ago. So it's sort of like it's out of my hands, I couldn't do anything to it now if I wanted to.
All right, another question we had, I may ask that, is how do you keep track of the characters? Is there some sort of sheet? Is there some sort of place where you can read up basically how is this character? How do I keep them consistent? How does it work?
Not really. Excuse me. That's sort of what the story meetings are all about. Excuse me. Because there's 3 people in these meetings. In the first 2 seasons, it was Lauren, Rob, and me. And then the latter, after that, it was Megan, and then it would be me and another writer. Like, for instance, Magic Duel, Cindy Morrow was the other writer. So there's still three of us in the room to bounce ideas. Cindy's been on since season 1. Rob and Lauren know every single episode. Megan knows every single episode. So you just have to kind of rely on your minds to remember which characters there are and where they would fit and where you can use them. And then there's Jason and those guys up there Jason is an encyclopedia. He knows everything about every character. So it's mostly just memory. You know, you'll read, you'll be developing a story and say, is there a character that would fit for this? And somebody will say, oh yeah, actually, we had this character, this other one called Sapphire Shores, and maybe she would fit here or he or whatever. Now I can't even remember if that's a male or female. But there's not really any kind of clearinghouse. I mean, we got a list when I first got on the show. Lauren sent us a list of names that had been cleared by Hasbro that we could use. That's where Star Swirl the Bearded came from. I just wanted to have this sort of mystical, magical figure that Twilight loved, like her Aristotle. And Star Swirl was on the list of cleared names. So I took Star Swirl and tried to make it more ancient by just adding the Bearded. And so That's where it came from, was off a list of cleared names. Junebug in Secret of My Excess, that was on that list. It's like, oh man, I need a random character I haven't used before. Go to that list of names and just pluck one off. They were cleared by legal, and they were names that Lauren liked. So we knew we would be in good shape using anything on that list.
Very nice.
And then more silence.
I think you keep breaking it. I was going to
I'm sorry, well, it's an awkward silence. I want to make sure that all the artists have a chance to talk as well.
You silly filly, you. A question that's also been popping up, I think, not just from... It's a question from one of our artists, but it's a question that's been popping up a lot. Have you ever considered writing an episode entirely in song?
That's not something that would be up to me. I would totally do that. I didn't. The first song I ever wrote lyrics to was "So Many Wonders." The lyrics are just abysmal, and you can tell that I didn't know what I was doing. But then I wrote the Cider Squeezy song, which was just an absolute joy, and I kind of understood. Okay, this is how you do songs. So it's not something I really. I've written songs for other shows, and I wrote two or three for Littlest Pet Shop, and it's great because you can just think of a song like the Music Man's, like You Got Trouble. You write the lyrics, you notate in the script to Daniel Ingram, this is what I was thinking when I wrote it. It was in the style of X, and then Ingram will take the song so he understands the rhythm of it, and he'll just make something completely different. That dude is just unbelievably good at what he does. So it's like, I always feel weird saying I'm writing songs because I'm really just writing rhyming words, and then Ingram is writing the song. But I would do that. I think it'd be hard. It's hard to convey story through songs. If anybody saw Les Miserables, but sure, why not?
All right, that's definitely great because I would totally be all over a musical episode.
Absolutely.
I've heard it mentioned in story meetings, so who knows? Maybe it'll happen.
Actually, another question. One thing that someone on the Roundtable found out or had the idea was that back in the day when Lunar Eclipse aired, they found this had a look at the word, the amniomorphic spell, and found that amnio means bowel, morphic, of course, morph, form, and so on. And that since Star Swirl the Bearded is the one who is the inventor of the amniomorphic spell, he's really a Potter who's bearded, so he's hairy, and that is a reference to Harry Potter. Is that intended?
Totally intentional. No, sorry, it's not intentional at all. That's pretty awesome. No.
Okay.
That's really cool. And I'm a movie Harry Potter fan. So maybe subconsciously it was intentional.
Definitely. Okay, cool.
That's cool.
Well, but
you know what? I'm going to take credit for that.
Catch.
Yeah, that is what I was
catch.
Thinking. I'm going to take credit for that one. Absolutely intentional.
So if anyone else amongst the artists on the stream would like to ask questions, chime in, make this sort of more communal, by all means do so.
Sorry, I don't really have much to ask. I just feel awkward.
Shy, or did they just ask everything of Dave Polsky? They already got all their answers.
They're shy.
We did a lot of philosophy with Dave Polsky. That was really fascinating.
That makes total sense.
Oh, yeah. It was really entertaining. We got into a whole conversation about the dichotomy between structuralism and then agency and then motivations and
I missed that conversation?
Yeah, you weren't there, Foal Papers. I was like, where the heck is Foal Papers in all of this?
That makes complete sense. That is very Dave Polsky.
Oh, yeah. I really want to hang out with the guy in real life now. I feel like we could just go on for hours.
I agree. That was really fascinating to do. Actually, the question we asked him, do you have something specifically that you draw inspiration from? Something that you know, this is going to give me some kind of spark, something like, there it is.
Huh. No, not really. I'm really trying to think. If I ever try to sit down and think of something, like a new idea, I'm almost guaranteed to not be able to do it. It's usually, I'll have an idea at some point. In fact, so I've got a book coming out next year, or this year, and the idea came to me back when I worked on that very first job at Cartoon Network, and I remember very distinctly where I was and what I was doing. I was walking back to Cartoon Network from the bank, and I have no idea why I was thinking about this, but I was thinking about Peach from Mario Kart, and just thinking like, oh wow, she's a princess. What if she lived in the same world as like other princesses, like the Disney princesses? And then what if all the princesses lived together? And it led me to this like idea of a princess, like a boot camp where all these girls go to become princesses. So I wasn't thinking of anything. I was just randomly walking down the street from the bank and had this idea. And then I wrote that up and developed a little more and sold it to Disney years ago as a TV series. It's the only pitch I ever sold. And then, long story, but now I'm writing it as a book, and it's not even close to that original idea. Most of that is completely gone, but it led me to write this book that I sold to Penguin as part of a series. So, I guess the ideas just sort of come when they come, and you just have to let your mind wander. Like, who the hell knows why I was thinking about Princess Peach from Mario Kart, but it led me to sell a book. It's like you just have to daydream, I guess, and make connections. I guess that's it. It's also it sort of depends what sort of ideas you're talking about. Like if it is just I'm going to come up with my own idea and then I'm going to develop it into whatever. For me, I guess it's just daydream and be open to bizarre thinking. But if it's coming up for ideas for like a specific episode of My Little Pony or something, then it's really good to be in a room with two other people bouncing ideas, because, I get asked a lot, who came up with this, who came up with that, who came up with this joke? And it's really just impossible to say, because in that room, maybe it's something that I said that gave Lauren an idea, or Lauren said this and then Rob said this building on that, and then it turned into this. It's things like build on each other and they spark things in other people's minds. So it's not really possible to say who came up with what for the most part. But it's just a room of ideas bouncing around. So for a specific project like that, I think it helps to have other people there. But if you're just trying to develop your own ideas, then I guess, I don't know, take a walk to the bank.
Yes, so I guess this really is a reciprocal process that you engage in with fellow writers or with fellow cohorts. And Larson spoke to that as well, especially those that you kind of already have a similar basis for interests or ideas or ways of thinking or what have you.
Yeah, and I kind of say that reluctantly, because I really don't like working with other people. I'm really solitary, and that's partly why I couldn't stand being on set and directing. I really enjoy writing and being by myself and doing it and coming up with ideas. But having worked in TV now for a while, I completely get it. I understand why you want to have story meetings, and you want to have other writers, and you want to bounce ideas, and you want to get feedback. It makes total sense to me now. It's still, I still really enjoy the part where I get to go and just write the episode. But that only comes because I've had the valuable time of being in the room with the others. So,
Right.
I'm a pretty big introvert, so I got really nervous at the idea of going into a writer's room and with all these other writers, and everybody's throwing out jokes, and it intimidated the hell out of me. But Lauren, to her credit, really makes it easy and fun and enjoyable, and even for somebody like me who's kind of shy, it was like fun to go to these writer summits. She really makes it fun, and Megan too.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Very nice. Another question that we talked about with Dave Polsky, where I would be curious to hear your opinion. He was asked what does he think about writer's block, and what does he do to fight it? He would argue that something like writer's block doesn't really exist. It's more like forcing yourself to do something that you should not be doing. What do you think?
You know what? Up until last summer, I would have agreed with him entirely. I've never had it. I thought it was completely just nonsense, and it's just another way of procrastinating. But I will say this: in July of last year, and again, this very specific moment where I just was hit with it. It was a combination of writer's block and this thing called imposter syndrome, which is, I wrote this book, I sold this book, and then I sold the movie rights to the book. And everything happened beautifully, exactly how I wanted. And then I had to sit down and write the outline of the movie. And I sat down to write the outline. It was after I'd already sold it, so the pressure was already off. And I sat down, and I was just sitting there thinking, I am an absolute fraud. I've fooled everybody. This is never going to work. So, and then there was writer's block where I sat down and I would write for 4 or 5 hours and end up with 2 pages, where it was just, and I would just keep rewriting them, and they were awful pages. They just weren't even useful. And it took me a while to realize, oh God, this is writer's block. This is it. It does exist, and I quite literally can't make any progress. But I do think, if I heard you correctly about Dave, I would agree that you just have to just sit down and just keep banging your head against the computer until it starts to flow more easily, because it does. After that, I would say 3 months after that, I had finished the 400-page manuscript, so that I really liked a lot more than the original one. And that's the other thing too. I mean, this is very specific for writers, so I don't know if it's boring for artists, but I've now written enough scripts, and this is where working in TV really helped. I've written enough scripts and things to know that the first draft is just going to be bad. There's just no way around it. That you can't write a good first draft, or I can't anyways. So when I'm sitting there just writing garbage, I've now come to the point where I can say, that's fine, this is how it should be, it's supposed to be this way, and just trusting that it's supposed to be bad. And then you get done with that, and then you can go back and do some rewriting, and by the time it's all done, you can say, okay, this is pretty good, actually. This is where I wanted to go. So that's me anyways. I have to plow through just the horribleness and then trust that at the end it's going to be good. So I guess that's the same with writer's block. You just have to like Dave said, just keep going. And eventually you will break through it. I read somewhere, I can't remember who it was. Some writers, I think it was Truman Capote, actually said if you have writer's block, you should write whatever you're writing as a letter to somebody. So you physically write "Dear Whoever," and then start writing it as a letter, and that'll push you through it. I don't know if that works or not, but I've only had it once in my life, and it was in concert with the good old imposter syndrome. So that was a pretty heinous couple of weeks.
Very interesting, because his argument wasn't exactly that writer's block doesn't exist, but he thinks calling it that, it just doesn't work. So I would think if you two were going to debate on that, I think that would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is kind of one of the way My Little Pony works. is we go to these writers' summits once a season where we just brainstorm ideas for the season. And we don't really see each other after that. You know, I didn't really get to know Amy or Megan or Charlotte until I went to a convention. I got to spend a little time with them, and I was like, God, these people are really great, because we're all freelance. So Dave, you know, whenever I see Dave, I've only seen him maybe 3 times in my life. And it's always in the context of, okay, we have 5 hours and we got to come up with X number of ideas. Let's talk. So we don't really get a chance to sit there and just kind of talk about writing or talk about whatever very much. It's mostly trying to come up with ideas, which is it's actually a really great system. I love the system that Lauren put in place, but it does lead to that. It does lead to this sort of, I don't really know these people as well as I'd like to.
So
that's why writers panels are fun. Writers panels at conventions are fun for me, because I get to hear, you know, Amy talk about what she does, and Megan, and you know, I think it's fascinating to hear what they have to say. Sorry, cut you off.
So what you're saying is you should be invited to more conventions so you can talk to your fellow writers some more.
Yeah, exactly. I should go sit in the audience, just listen.
We'll keep that in mind, definitely.
Is this is any of this going to be like available to hear later? I'd love to hear Dave. Is it gone into the ether?
Yeah.
I think it's recording.
Recording all the interviews for the rates you paid.
Cool. Very good.
Right now we're recording too, so afterwards people can also listen to this.
Excellent. Just edit out all my stammering.
Well, it's valuable stammering.
Also, audience, remember, we're also still open for your questions if Mr. Larson still has some time for us. So
yeah, I got a little more time.
So definitely ask questions, because he's here to answer them. And remember to pass on the word and donate, because he is being generously donating. No, I screwed up my grammar. I mean, he will generously match every donation that's been made since he came on the stream. So
I think that
spreading the word.
Sorry to cut in there. I think the arrangement was that you were matching every donation up until the past hour. So I think
the past hour. Okay. Then,
the matching has ceased, but you can still donate and make quite an impact and difference.
Yeah.
And what was
the Larson will still match quite a nice amount. So
how much was donated in that period? Was it?
I believe it was. The number was posted up here somewhere. 348 euros, I think.
Excellent. So MA Larson will be matching 348 euros of charitable donations. Very kind of you, sir.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Cool. Good. Well done, people.
That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you, people, for donating.
Thank you all for donating. Thank you, MA Larson, for matching.
Absolutely.
And thank you, MA Larson, for being awesome in general, because I believe in MA Larson.
Oh man, it's so funny. I'm seeing so many avatars of that now. I'm starting to get nervous.
We'll see. Maybe if you end up running for some sort of public office, you'll have the Brony vote at least.
Yeah, definitely. Another question's been coming up. Is there? Also, I'm hearing echo, so someone can fix that maybe.
Yep.
No questions been coming up. Do you have any episode of the other writers that you would say, like in particular, like a favorite?
Yes, I really love Best Night Ever. I love the. There's something really magical about Counterlot at night, and this whole that song is so good, and it really features all the main characters really nicely, and it just has a really nice magical vibe to it that I really enjoy. I always like that one a lot, and I love the song. I really like all of them though. I mean, what was the other one in Counterlot? Sweet and Elite? Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah,
Rarity goes to Counterlot.
Maybe I'm a Counterlot fan. Yeah, I'm a fan of the show. I think it's a really fun, good show. It's refreshing for me to watch too. I don't watch a lot of animation because the level of snark really gets to me. But I do watch the show because it is just nice and fun and friendly, and the music's great, and I just enjoy it. But yeah, my answer would be best night ever.
Sweet. Checking out the chat. Someone wants to know if there was a particular inspiration for the Fire Ruby in Secret of My Excess.
That was one of those situations where I was just at home in my room. We had the story meeting, and it was just gem. And I was just in my room thinking, okay, how can I make this more than just a gem? How can I make it a really special gem? And I was like, what if it looks like it's, on fire from the inside? And then, Fire Ruby actually sounds kind of cool. It sounds like a real gem. So it was just that. It was just it just came from how can I make this more interesting visually. And then luckily that term works. So that was it. It was just, the inspiration was just to make this particular gem totally unique from all the other gems.
So the heart shape was intentional.
The heart shape is entire credit to DHX.
So that was not in your script, but you made sure that it would have some kind of meaning as opposed to the other gems.
I'm going to check, actually. Let me look. I haven't seen that script in a million years. I'm going to open it up here. Sorry. You can keep talking if you want while I look at this.
See, people, that's dedication. Checking his script.
Everyone in the audience is thinking the same thing, which is, oh my god, he can actually look at the scripts. Or at least that's what I'm thinking.
His secret chest.
I don't think I'm alone in that.
There is no reference here to it being heart-shaped. That was DHX.
Sweet. That wasn't nice.
Questions. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. You go ahead. Sorry. I keep rambling. What questions do you have?
There were a couple of questions in the chat pertaining to Littlest Pet Shop and your experience writing for that show and how it relates or does not to the My Little Pony experience.
That was awfully fun because the creators of the showrunners on that were the creators of the very first show I worked on. So it was like going back to work with them again, and they're awesome. And there's actually a ton of crossover with My Little Pony and Littlest Pet Shop, both like here and in Canada. With DHX and with Daniel Ingram and a lot of the same people, and here a lot of the same writers. So honestly, the experience was pretty similar. It was a writer's summit, and I recognized a lot of the faces. A lot of the same writers were on there, and then the show itself. The show itself is a little different because it's just a completely different world. But they let us do references and they let us do some more. I don't know if you saw my last one, which is about this dance show, but it started out with this fantasy sequence of the lizard rampaging through town like Godzilla and everybody running, and it's revealed that he's just rampaging in the pet shop because he can't find the remote control. And that's kind of an atypical way to start an episode, but they were fine with it and they let us do that. So it's, formatically speaking, it's kind of the same as My Little Pony.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Would you say that writing on My Little Pony has actually changed in general your approach to writing?
Yes. Let's see. I guess maybe not My Little Pony specifically, but writing for TV animation has, because you're so limited in your time. You really have to be economical. You have to juggle a lot of characters in a short amount of time. And for me, when I was first starting out, there's a lot of ego. I didn't take criticism well. I didn't want to hear it. That's part of why I wanted to be solitary, so I could come up with my own stuff. I didn't want to collaborate. I was very protective of it and kind of obnoxious, actually. And working in TV, you start to learn to not be precious. And you learn to just throw out ideas and like, yep, that doesn't work. And it's really helped me to look at my writing objectively and say, yep, you're right, that's got to go. Your idea is way better. Just the constant churning out of new stuff, because there was one summer I was writing for 4 shows at once, all freelance, and you're just churning out episodes, and it really helps you to step back. You do your best work, and then you can read it and say, and then I can trust myself when I say, hey, that is really good, or nope, that doesn't work. I guess. Yeah, I guess that's my answer.
Mm-hmm. Sorry for putting you on the spot. It's just something that's been on my mind. Let's see if the audience still has questions. Is there a character that you would say is the hardest to write?
Of the Big Macintosh. No, just kidding. I would probably say Fluttershy because she's, with a character like Rarity where there's this obvious pride that you can poke fun at, it's just much easier than somebody who's shy and meek and kind of quiet and nice. She's just so nice. So I tend to make jokes about how she's just so nice, like the Discord joke where she's uncorruptible. Where, that was back to an earlier question. You said things you got away with. I couldn't believe they kept that line where Discord says, does it ever bother you that your friends think you're weak and helpless? And she's like, no, I am weak and helpless. And I appreciate it when I couldn't believe they kept that in. But, that's the only way I could think to write her is that. So I think she's probably the trickiest for me.
This is a question that gets asked quite a lot. Advice that you may have for people who want to get into writing of one sort or another?
Well, it's not very sexy advice, but it's practical, which is own your own intellectual property, own your IP. Don't try to get into, I'm going to be a writer and I'm going to write on shows, because you just won't make enough money to live. You have to control your own property, come up with your own ideas, and you're also more valuable to studios when you do that. When you go in and you're pitching on things, and those development executives keep seeing you and thinking these ideas aren't for us, but we like that there's so many ideas and they're creative and whatnot, they'll put you on shows. You can get work on other people's things doing it that way. But it's unless you can get on a staff, which, like I said, there's not a ton of staffs to get on. It's the best thing you can do is own your own IP, create your own things, create your own pitches, create your own art, create your own whatever, and own it, and then sell it. That's my advice. That's like I said, with this book that I sold, it's been a complete game changer. I don't know. LA is a pretty expensive place to live, and this is all really boring and insider stuff, but like, we don't get residuals as animation writers. We're not in the Writers Guild, we're in the Animation Guild, and we don't get residuals. So, and anytime MLP airs, I don't get any money for that. I get the one check at the beginning. Whereas if you watch any primetime episode of anything, every time it airs, the writer gets a check. So it's not, I'm not sitting here complaining that that I'm a professional writer, even though it may sound like that. I'm just saying you got to be realistic about the industry, and the best possible way to succeed in the industry is to control your own IP. So there's my advice. Create your own stuff. I always thought I'm gonna be the guy who I just write on shows. I'm gonna get on this show, and then when that ends, I'll get on that show, and then I'll get on that show. And even when I'm writing for 4 shows at once, it's like you're scared. Where's the next thing gonna come? What if it doesn't come? What if, it's just really scary to be constantly wondering where's the next check coming from. And if you create your own show, or you create your own whatever it is, then you don't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Nope. But we all love doing fan art, but that's still really, really valuable advice. Have your own ideas. It's great.
Yeah, and fan art. I mean, that's the other. I don't mean to like say that's the only thing you should be doing, because there's, like I said in the last question, I learned so much writing on other people's shows. I learned so much from going to story meetings and how Lauren runs her show. And artists learn so much by doing fan art. You just learn the craft and you learn how to do it, and then you can apply it to your own thing. So I'm not saying it's frivolous to be doing things like that. It's not. It's all really useful. Building yourself up and your techniques and your skills and whatnot. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I guess at some point, control your IP.
I think it's very, very good advice.
It's something somebody told me, and I never really got it until I sold my book, and I was like, oh, yeah, he was right. This is a totally different situation. So.
Is there any word on when the book might be hitting the world?
There is no word, and I still don't have a title either. Trust me, I'll tweet as soon as I know either of those things, but as of now, I don't. I have a feeling it'll be this coming Christmas time, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I will keep you posted.
We will all be keeping an eye out for it, I'm sure.
Don't worry, coming up with titles is the hardest.
Yeah, no kidding. Titles are really hard.
Who actually gets to choose what titles? Is it the script writers themselves, or does someone else dictate which?
Oh, the title of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. For me, the title of the episode is just 100% meaningless. It doesn't, it does appear on the screen, doesn't it? I guess it does. Most of the time, I would say 90% of the episodes I wrote had a different title when I got them. I think the only title I came up with suggested, but there were maybe two of them. Three. Super Seedy, Cider Squeezy, 6000 was called Cider Horse Rules when I got it. And then somebody realized that Cider House Rules is about abortion, and they thought maybe that wasn't such a good association to make.
Oh.
So we were like, what should we call it? And I think I just said to Lauren, hey, what if we just call it The Name of the Machine? And she's like, cool, done. And then Ponyville Confidential was my title, because towards the end of season 2, they wanted another fresh round of premises. So we all individually wrote up a few premises and sent them in, and that's just the title I gave it. And then it managed to stick through all the way. And then the title of the season 3 finale I came up with. Other than that, I think every other title was given to me or somebody else came up with, and they almost all had a previous title that they were changed from. Like, I didn't, in fact, Secret of My Excess, I didn't even know that was what it was called until I saw it on TV.
Did it have a different original title that you thought up?
I didn't think of any titles for that. It was called, when I went in for the story meeting, it was called Giving Dangerously. And then at some point, somebody, I don't even know who it was, changed it to Secret of My Access.
Who usually gets to decide the title? Is it the director or the producer? Who does that?
I have no idea. I really don't know. I think it would be a combination of the hub and Megan and Jason. Somewhere in those three entities, the title comes. Megan, I think, comes up with most of the titles, and maybe they are asked to be changed for reasons like Cider Horse Rules. Yeah, I really don't know. I never really bothered with I never really thought about it. I'd get the episode and there's the title, and I was like, okay, that's the title. It never really until Lauren said, hey, we need a title for this Cider Squeezy episode. That was the first time I ever even thought about the title of the episode.
We're just here to ask the nerdy questions, so that's okay.
Hey, that's fine.
basically, when we talk on the internet about all these little things, it's sometimes even those really tiny details, like who came up with the title or what was the title, what does it mean. This leads to so much speculation. So that kind of leads back to how we talked about spoilers earlier. So maybe the whole spoilers thing, just knowing the title of an episode, it can already spark so much discussion.
It's
funny
true.
to know.
It's very
not
true.
all of the time. It's even the idea of the script writer. That's good to know, actually.
Well, it's because when you submit premises, and I think this is true in any show, when you submit premises to the studio, they need a title. Even if it's just a placeholder title, you got to have some sort of title so they can refer to it. So, a lot of times you'll write up, say, 5, you come up with 5 ideas, and you're like, oh gosh, I need a title. Think of some stupid pun and throw it in. For me, anyways, maybe it's different from other writers or Megan or whatever, but for me, it's just like, I just need something here. I'll just go with this horrible pun, and that'll be that. So, Ponyville Confidential made sense because it's obviously LA Confidential is a play on that, and LA Confidential is all about tabloids. Danny DeVito plays this like tabloid journalist, and that Ponyville Confidential is about Gabby Gums and gossip columnists and all that. So that title made sense. But I don't know. I've never put any thought really into titles. It's just coming up with a dumb pun, basically.
We actually
we don't really mind for puns.
we have a pun jar going actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yep. I had to pitch into that yesterday.
I am not good at them. Las Pegasus, I think, was a pretty weak one. Because it actually would have worked had there not been Los Angeles, because I always intended to be Vegas, because Las Vegas, that was kind of funny, but when you actually say Las Pegasus, then you're like, oh, it could be Los Angeles. That's why it's a bad pun, because it's like, it could be this or it could be that.
Yeah, definitely.
Not one of my finest puns.
Well, that's all right.
Speaking of Las Pegasus, you will be at Las Pegasus Unicon, I believe.
I will. I will only be there for Friday. I'll only be there for the first day.
Oh.
Young child, and my wife is going to be out of town, so I need to fly back and see Mr. Mom.
Okay. Well, at least I'll be able to get a chance to see you, Mr. Larson. Should be fun.
I'll be there all day. I'm leaving late, so.
Ah, awesome. Yeah. You should come visit the Bronies for Good table. We're going to have a table.
Oh, cool. I will. I absolutely will. Awesome.
Yes.
I'll deliver you a check.
There we go. And then we can make a whole scene out of it. It's like, Mr. Larson gives a check for good charity. Oh my gosh.
Flashbulbs popping.
Yeah, there you go.
You think anything else?
Is the call still going all right? Chat, can you still hear us?
Still going for me.
So,
Chat gone.
I don't know. I'm just checking to see. Okay, yeah, they can hear us because they're
Folks in the chat,
about
if you can still hear us, if we haven't trailed off, please say something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm sorry. My internet dropped out.
Okay, so is this you, Perry?
Very sorry.
That's okay. These things happen. Oh, this is a fun question. What would be your ideal rarity episode, Mr. Larson?
Gosh. Huh. I should have one, shouldn't I? Oh man, this is such a cop-out, but I really enjoyed Sonic Rainboom because it's sort of a co-episode. I think she's fun when you play. Well, in fact, I think most of the characters are more fun when you play them off each other. So it would be a rarity episode in concert with somebody else. I don't know. I just had such a great time writing things like A2 Gabby Gums and the Gilded Pages of Your Betrayal. Like anything where she could talk like that, where she feels wronged. I think it would be a hell of a lot of fun. I'd need more time to sit down and think of an episode.
Got a question
It's a good
in
question.
the chat. Sorry.
It's a good question, though.
I'm slowly going to ask this just in case anyone. Okay, we got a question in the chat. You said here. Let me try this again. You said the writers don't get much time to collaborate in person. Question is, how difficult does that make it to create or ensure sort of character development or continuity between episodes and between seasons?
It's not that hard. It's a little tough because, we're all on the email list for the scripts. So we all get all the scripts and you can read the scripts. It's obviously, reading a script isn't the same as seeing an episode. And there's a year between when we write them and when they come out. So we are definitely behind the curve. And there's stuff like, so let's say I'm writing episode 6, or actually more like 12. I'd probably only be able to see episodes 1 through 5 because the rest would be in process, various stages of process. So there might be things that have happened in the previous 4 or 5 episodes that I wouldn't be privy to. So it's a little tricky. It's also not our number one priority. I think we all love it. We all really enjoy putting it in, but we don't really kill ourselves to make sure it's all there. I think maybe if we did have a writer's room and we had staff writers, we probably would have more of a rigid kind of thing. But the fact of the matter is, we're all on our own. We're all writing our own thing. So I can read, whoever did the Discord episode this time.
Dave Polsky.
Dave, yeah. So I never talked to Dave about that. Dave, all he had to go on was the previous Discord episodes and working with Megan and whoever else was in that meeting. So if I was going to do another Discord episode, I would have to go back and really study his and make sure that what I'm doing fits with that. So it's hard. It's not as easy as if we were a staff in a room. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm. So we're still having some connection issues, so trying to work around those. Silly things. Still looking at the donations. People have 1 more hour left of Kallisti.
Tote bags, baby, tote bags.
Yes.
Do we have any issues?
Get those tote bags.
Yep, there will be tote bags full of derpy figurines.
I seriously think tote bags are a great idea. Maybe I should pitch that to Galacon staff.
Do it.
Who knows?
Maybe I'll hand out I Believe in M.A. Larson tote bags.
Oh my
Yes.
god, you need to do that. No, wait. For Las Vegas Unicon, you need to get I Believe in M.A. Larson pins.
I'm working on it.
This needs to happen.
Yes.
I want to give one. I want to see Amy Keating Rogers wearing one. That's my ultimate goal.
That would be great.
Yes.
Like, have you heard in Mr. Larson? Well, let me tell you what I can do for you.
It is sounding
I'm
more and more like
I'm going to turn the writer
cult.
Yeah, I'm going to turn the writers panel into a big rally.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. I know somebody who can get you some pins. I mean, if you're serious about this.
Well, Pixel Kitty's making them. I think they are being made.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes.
Gosh, I'm still fighting this picture, but I really like drawing it. Have we gotten anyone starting in the Wench section of the Mystic Shop?
Someone must be working on that, surely.
Damn. Come on, artists, spread the word on Twitter too. Doesn't have to be just with people in the stream.
I just looked at that, and there was he offers her this powder that will make Twilight laugh uncontrollably. And then Trixie's like, "What? That's horrible revenge."
Got one question. Keep on noticing that the characters in the show keep on referencing "See you next Tuesday." Is that a reference to Kubrick's "See you next Wednesday"?
I'm at a complete loss. I have no idea. What did you say? That line is in the show?
I'm reading it as it was written. I don't think I'm quite sure what he's referring to either.
I'm drawing a blank. I got nothing. I don't think I've ever written that. There are some pretty awful connotations to that phrase that I wouldn't try to sneak in.
And then there was silence again.
The reference you said anyway that it's something that happens just as it does. It's not that you go in and then do it intentionally, right?
Sorry, say it again.
But earlier, that's what you said, didn't you, about references happening? You don't go in and say, "Oh, I have to reference this." It just happens as it does.
Yeah, you find a spot where it makes sense, and then you think of something that you've liked in the past or that would be funny to reference. Or, I mean, there are exceptions, like Music Man was obviously, we're going to reference the Music Man. But a lot of the little throwaway ones, it's, hey, like the Empire Strikes Back and Magic Duel.
Yes.
That was just like, hey, this makes total sense to reference that. And there's actually more scenes of that got cut. That was a bigger part of the episode in the script. But there just wasn't time.
I think if I can say that, the reference that surprised me the most was, if you've seen the Baby Cakes episode, was the train spotting reference.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, whoa. I loved it.
I think that and the Big Lebowski ponies.
Yes. Yeah.
I love the Lebowski ponies.
Yeah.
Yes.
How in the heck did that get in?
Yes, exactly.
And again, that was DHX, but again, it was the same kind of thing where, hey, we're in a bowling alley. Who would be there? You know what I mean? It's like it comes out of the scene. So there's a lot of
boarded that scene.
It is one of the fun things about the show is there's a lot of overt references like that, or like Empire Strikes Back, but there's also a lot of really subtle. Dave Polsky in his last episode, in the Discord one, he did a reference to All About Eve, and it's like, who? That's not a really obvious one, and that's not one that 95% of people watching would get, but it's there. So there's like various levels of references too. There's really a lot of them in the show, and it's fun because most of the time they're not something you need to understand what it's referencing to appreciate the show. They're just there. They're like Easter eggs, I guess.
This is a pretty fun question. Why do you destroy Ponyville in most of the scripts that you wrote? Swarm of the Century, Secret of Myxus, Return of Harmony, Magic Duel. Now that he mentions it, that is actually a recurring theme.
Yes, it is.
What have you got against Ponyville, man? What do you have against candy-colored magical ponies living in harmony?
I told you, I'm a Canalot guy. I don't know. I've never thought about that. Maybe I should go see a psychiatrist. There's clearly some issue there.
This innate desire to destroy Ponyville.
Poor Ponyville.
The will rise again.
Basically,
that's the thing. It always rises again. Maybe that's why, because I know it'll rise again.
Still, that is actually a pretty good observation. Well, I guess it's something you can live out in your writing as opposed to real life.
Yeah.
Well, I think you'd have a job destroying Ponyville in real life. That's a bit of a...
Yeah. I guess you are supposed to put your characters through the ringer, as much as possible. So it doesn't get much more than destroying the town.
He was once hurt by a pony, and this is the way he deals with the emotional trauma of... Yeah. Sometimes
I have a secret agenda that I want the mayor removed from office.
One way or another.
So I'm hoping if I do this enough, then the rest of the team will be forced to acknowledge we got to get rid of this mayor.
I'm
kidding. I love the mayor. I absolutely love the mayor. In fact, I had some mayor stuff in Magic Duel that got cut too.
Magic Duel seemed to be an episode where you got to write a ton of characters, doesn't it?
Magic Duel is weird because it's 28 pages. It was one of the shorter scripts I wrote, and quite a bit of it got cut out for time. So again, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. You don't need to write 20-page scripts. But again, like the mayor stuff I had in Magic Duel had no bearing on the plot at all. It was just kind of like a gag. So it makes total sense that it would be cut.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Larson, will you be joining us till the end of Kallisti, or do you have to leave a little early?
I should probably get going. My daughter is waking up even as we speak. And I'm sorry, I'm Mr. Mo.
Yeah.
I should probably run.
All right.
You got one more?
Yeah, let's give one more question to the
Okay, one really good question. Can we get one really, really good question? Really fantastic question before Mr. Larson has to leave us.
Yes.
Can you guys think of something really good?
The best question ever asked to any MLP writer ever in the history of this fandom or any fandom.
No pressure.
So no pressure at all. I mean, I'm sure you've all got a dozen of those just lying around.
Yeah, we'll all be scrutinizing your questions carefully.
We're judging you, audience. We're judging you.
If you wouldn't want
is
to-
judging you.
I'm totally judging.
You would
Can
want
you
to
feel
anger
the judgment?
You're going to be judged on this question. Unless there isn't one. Maybe there isn't one.
They're lagging a little bit behind, so I think they're going to start asking. As soon as they get over their fear, they will start asking.
They haven't even felt my judgment yet.
I think Foal Papers you should choose the question.
There we go.
I feel like I would ask that once.
You put all the pressure on everybody else, and now turn back around on you.
Yes, of course.
I'm hoisted by my own petard there, aren't I?
Yep.
It's the most simple solution.
And you will be judged.
I'll be judged on my judging of other people's questions. It's judgmentception. God. I can't deal with all this judgment. We've got some questions here. I'm liking. Actually, I kind of. I don't know if that's the question of the century, but it's quite a good question if
you can do two.
Dig deep into it.
You can give me two if you want.
Would you see yourself as a brony? Was the question.
Ooh,
interesting. Yeah, why not?
That was a yes?
You know what's interesting is I write for the show and I've read all the scripts, episodes and whatnot, and I'm still blown away by like that thing about the amniomorphic spell. You know, I feel like as a writer on the show, hey, nobody knows the show better than me. I know all the ins and outs. I know all the characters, and then I'm just constantly like, nope. There are a lot of people out there who know this show a lot better than I do. But yeah, I mean, I do really like it. And I really like what it stands for. So yes, I like the kindness of it. I love what you guys are doing right here. You know, there's a charity thing going on because of this show. I love that. It's just be nice to each other, and that's what the show's about. And so yes.
M.A. Larson, proud brony.
Yeah, damn right.
That's why I believe in M.A. Larson.
Actually, I think I would prefer to be a Pegasus there.
Oh.
Do you want to expand on that, or?
I'm
Do you
just saying.
like the word more?
I think it's a really clever phrase. Not the bronies, not too, but you know, if we're saying that the gender element of the word doesn't matter, then what the hell? I'll be a Pegasus there.
All right. As it is said, so shall it be.
Just give me a minute to tweet
Larson,
that. Yeah.
Larson is the best Pegasus.
Indeed he is.
I think that's a nice question to leave it out on, unless anyone else has anything to add to the conversation.
I think we're good.
Awesome.
I will just.
What are we up to right now in money before we call it?
We're up to 4,018 euros.
4,018 euros.
And that's still missing the match from Mr. Larson.
And then we also have the Canny Galacon plush as well, which is at $610.
So we're going to be getting. We may hit 5,000 euro.
I know, right?
It's awesome. I may have already hit it with M.A. Larson's very generous matching. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, shall we wrap it up?
Yes.
Yeah, hats off to the community, because it is like, it's just incredible that all these people got together over, honestly, friendship and kindness. Hats off to you guys for doing this, raising this money, and I guess that's
Thank
it.
you.
Well, thank you very much
for your time.
Thank you
for joining us, being so generous with your time and with your money and with your talent. Everyone,
Thanks,
M.A.
everybody.
Larson.
Oh,
Thanks,
wait.
guys.
Say goodbye.
Before we go,
Thank you.
I think you need to see this, though, before you go. It's Tara Strong, Queen of the Bronies. M.A. Larson, King of the Pegasisters.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Perfect. Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
That's
Yes,
excellent.
we can live with that. Definitely.
On that note.
On that excellent note.
Goodbye. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
Mr. Larson.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.
See ya.
Bye.